Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre, the independent speculator. Our victim of the day is John Wiesblatt. He's the CEO of Trident Resources, a new Ron Netolitzky play. John, why don't you go ahead and give us an overview, and then I've got questions.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do this as efficiently as possible. So Trident Resources is a brand new company with legacy resources. You mentioned Ron Netolitzky. He is a very important part of the past of this company and hopefully the present and future. So this is a company that was created through the merger of three public companies, which closed at the beginning of this year, so January. The
Hence
merger
Trident.
Trident. The merger
Three
happened.
companies, Trident. Sorry, I'm just going with the.
Oh, yes, three companies tried it. So Rockridge Resources, which was the company that I was managing at the time, Massgold, Eros Resources. Rockridge has brought in mind and management, so we've come in to take on where Ron has left off. Massgold brought four gold deposits in the Ronge Gold Belt, or LGB, as you'll hear me often refer to it as, and a former past producing Cameco high grade gold mine called Contact Lake, which is the focus of the recent exploration program. The third company in the merger, or the third leg of the stool, Eros Resources, brought a balance sheet, some cash, some marketable securities, mostly shares of Skeena Resources, which still exist on balance sheet today. What you have at present is a $65 million company with an upgraded mineral resource estimate, which now exceeds 2 million ounces of greater than 1 gram per ton material across four deposits, excluding, and I underscore excluding, Contact Lake, the past producing Cameco high grade gold mine. You have a very tight share structure in 31.5 million shares, and you have an extraordinarily strong balance sheet for a junior company. There's $12 million in cash, marketable securities, and an additional $3 million that's coming back into the company by way of warrant exercise from a transaction that we did earlier this year. So you have $65 million market cap, you have a $50 million enterprise value, you have 2 million ounces of high grade gold across four open pitable deposits in Saskatchewan within infrastructure, tier one jurisdiction, and you have a former past producing Cameco operating gold mine, which hasn't been mined in 30 plus years. We promised the last thing that I will say before we get into the Q&A is we promised that we would deliver two things this year. We would commission and release an updated MRE on the four gold deposits that came with Massgold, which we have done successfully. So we have successfully gone from 1.2 million ounces of gold at over 1 gram per ton to 2 million ounces of gold at, again, over 1 gram per ton. That asset was calculated, or that resource was calculated at $2,600 gold, clearly at a deep discount or a conservative number relative to the 4,250 that we're seeing in the current market today. The second thing that we told investors that we would do this year was to fully execute a funded exploration program at Contact Lake in Saskatchewan, where work has not been done for almost 30 years. We successfully launched a 5,000-meter program that exceeded 6,500 meters. The reason for the 30+% increase in drilling meterage was because of visual mineralization in just about each of the 19 holes that were drilled at Contact Lake. The first three of 19 holes of that program have been released to the market, with the 16 remaining holes to act as catalysts for value and for shareholders in the coming weeks, and hopefully not months, but coming weeks. The first three holes were 100% successful. The third hole intersected numbers of 7 gram per ton over 43 and a quarter meter. And again, and that included 30 gram per ton over 7 meter. Many investors have asked us if we twinned a former Cameco hole. That is not the case. We drilled that hole 30 meters from a former Cameco hole, and where we intersected that new zone of mineralization was about 40 meters below the known shear zone, or the area where Cameco was producing the gold in the mid 1990s. So again, just to recap, brand new company, tight share structure, fully funded, 2 million ounces of gold trading at sub $30 per ounce in situ.
It's an excellent overview, and I've got a lot of questions. But before we go there, obviously, I know Ron. I know Tim Tremundi. I
Yeah.
remember Jordan Trimble from Bayfield days. but I don't know you. Can you give us a little bit more about your background and why you the right person to lead this charge?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So the front nine of my career, as I like to call it, I was an institutional fund manager. I spent almost 20 years from a very early age being the steward of capital. So I worked on a pretty successful alternative asset hedge fund here in Toronto. From there, I went on to run the Sprott Canadian Equity Funds for Sprott Asset Management for a period of time. And then my last job on the buy side was operating as an internal portfolio manager for one of the largest family offices in the country. I left managing money professionally in the early 2020s. In fact, during the pandemic, it really wasn't something that inspired me to continue to do. But that wasn't the reason that I left. The reason that I left is I took a very long bias on hard assets, mostly precious and base metals, and I fell into a very interesting position through a relationship with Jordan Tremble, who sits with me on the board of Trident, who's the president of the company and a partner. He had a vehicle called ROCK Resources. ROCK Resources needed some leadership and some help. It had a nice asset in Knife Lake, which was VMS copper. So that fit towards my larger macro investment thesis. But what Jordan and I set out to do was to consolidate very good base and precious metal assets sitting in some junior companies that weren't being run very well. We were to consolidate and create a much larger vehicle. That didn't happen until this year when we were able to consolidate the three companies, as I mentioned, Massgold, Eros Resources, and Rockridge. And so now we have a real platform for growth. We have real scalability, and we have an asset portfolio that's been designed to create significant shareholder value. So that's my background. That's why I come to this company. The reason that I'm the person to lead this thing going forward, well, there's really a few reasons for that. Number one, I've been a financier for many junior resource companies in the past. I understand, I believe I understand what good value is represented in the market. That's number one. Number two, managing the finances, managing the cap structure, allocating the capital across a wide array of assets is something that I'm more than capable of doing. And number three is putting together a collection of people who are more knowledgeable than I when it comes to geology, mine engineering, asset development, regulatory, First Nations, communications. These are the things that I'm also good at. So almost like a jack of all trade. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a mining engineer. I'm a former fund manager with a very interested position on junior resources. Hope that answers the question.
That's it. More than I asked for, but good to know. All right. It's all right. Okay, so I do have more specific questions, but let's start with the overall view. There are a number of deposits in close proximity, and for more than 2 decades, I've heard Ron talking up the Ronge Gold Belt and how there's these different deposits. We could put them together. I remember not Mass, but before that, there was a $1 mill he bought. He was going to put these different, gold deposits together into production. And I get that Contact Lake is new, but I'm looking again at a bunch of different deposits in the same area. And I'm wondering, is this the same plan as before, or which never worked? Or what's different this time?
This is absolutely a different iteration of the plan. So the previous management team, including Ron, they would speak of a hub and spoke model. That's not what Trident is in its present form. Maybe down the road, it will become that, but it is not that today. What this area has lacked significantly is capital, resources, and time. Now, given some of the prior cycles, which weren't very amenable towards exploration in Saskatchewan, for starters. Number two, Saskatchewan was never really a core focal point for gold exploration. It was more a focus for uranium and potash. So for those two reasons alone, the company of the past and Ron's vision in the past for hub and spoke, it just could never really come together. However, it is our view, and this also comes from Ron, that the Trans-Hudson origin, it is host to significant gold mineralization. These are orogenic gold deposits, much like the Homestake mine in the Dakotas. And it is this company's stated goal to provide scalability to its current gold exploration on its balance sheet. There are four deposits. They are quite small relative to some larger gold deposits across the country, but they are open along strike and at depth. They're open in all directions. We have the capital, the balance sheet, and the team that can go and build more scale on the balance sheet. So the point is taking 2+ million ounces of gold on the balance sheet today, growing that to 5, 6, 7 million ounces, where you now have economies of scale, and then you can advance towards feasibility level study or potentially some type of hub and spoke model. I don't think investors really want to hear about production on very small scale, open pits. I think that they want to see large scale, large footprints, and real economics. That's the difference between the Trident of today and the Trident of the past, or the mass gold of the past.
All right, that's clear enough. I'm also noticing Contact Lake. There's talk of the high grade in the past. The current results seem more bulk grade. Is it sort of like one of these detour or Canadian Malartic type things where there's old high grade production and we're going after the halo around it to make it big? Or are you actually interested? You just talked about a high grade drill result. Are you looking at adding tonnage on the high grade end, or is it too early to say? You're just getting started. What's the exploration goal there?
Yeah, so what we know about Contact Lake is that it produced a small amount of gold between 1994 and 1998. In fact, it was about 190,000 ounces at a 6.13 gram per ton head grade. So fairly good grades for this part of the world. In fact, grades at CB and Santoy, which is the only mining complex, actually, Santoy is the only mining asset in the province. It mines at around 7 to 8 gram per ton. So these are very high grade systems. What we know about Contact Lake is that it mined this high grade down to about 340 meters. It remains open to the east. It also remains very much open at depth. I think the goal for us is to continue to go and find more high grade materials. We know that Chemical left behind a significant amount of high grade resources. So at the time when they put this thing into production, there was a mining resource of about 350,000 ounces at 8 to 10 gram per ton. They mined 200,000, which left behind several 100,000 ounces of ore in the mine. In addition to that, there's another 350,000 ounces of grade of ore outside of the mining deposit area. So there is greater than 500,000 ounces that Cameco did leave behind by their own admission. Those reports can be found on the Saskatchewan government website or even on the Trident Resources Corp website. So I think the plan here is, in terms of exploration at Contact Lake, is to continue to chase the high grade, which we were 100% successful in doing in the first 3 of a 19-hole program.
So talk to me about these holes. You say you didn't twin. Glad to hear it. Was it still confirmatory? 30 meters isn't very far from known mineralization. Do we just try to upgrade these historic resources, or do we step out in any way to look at the size potential? What did you do with those 19 holes?
So the plan is to confirm the zones of mineralization and extend those zones of mineralization. Those are the two things. So Chemical left behind a lot of data. There was no core for us to look at. We don't know where that core has gone, albeit many unsuccessful ways for looking for it. But they did leave behind all of their assays results. So we were able to compile those. We know where they mined the stopes in the high grade, which is called the Bacchus shear zone. But we are intent on extending the mineralization both to the east towards Contact Lake and below, and at depth. And the reason why we think at depth is very interesting, so beyond the hanging wall of the shear zone and into the footwall, is because CB Santoy, they mine down to 1.3 kilometers and 750 meters. That asset, it pinches and it swells as it moves down towards depth. We believe that Contact Lake has very many similarities geologically and structurally to CB Santoy. So that is that was the purpose of the 19 holes.
All right. Specifically of the 19, how many were confirmatory and how many were extending?
That's a great question. I'm going to have to come back to you on that. I don't know specifically.
Okay. All right. And I just saw results from Contact Lake. Did we poke any holes at anything else? Or are we pretty much focusing on Contact Lake to start with? Or what's the overall exploration agenda?
Yeah, Lobo, the 100% of the 6,800 meters was focused at Contact Lake. We are right now in the very early stages of building a 10,000 meter follow-up program for the winter. The reason being is you can drill from the lake on the ice in winter, where obviously you cannot do in the summer or the fall. Cameco left behind a known mining stope, a new area of mineralization called the BK3 zone, which happens underneath that lake. That is going to be the area of focus or part of focus for the winter drilling program. In fact, they actually built an underground drift from the BK1 zone or the Baco zone all the way under the lake to BK3. We're going to explore the potential there in the wintertime.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's funny how in some places in Canada where it's, well, even if it's not a lake, it's a swamp or something, and the winter's the best time to drill it.
Yeah.
Less environmental impact because you're just drilling on the ice. Okay, so forward-looking statement then for next year, are we still going to focus on the bird in the hand at Contact Lake, or are we going to do anything with any of the other projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sorry I didn't answer that in your previous question. So, of the 10,000 meters we're planning right now, early stages, 75 to 80% will focus back at Contact Lake, where we're finding some real success. And I think that 25% of the program will be designated towards the preview deposits, preview south and preview north. We do believe, geologically speaking, that the preview deposits, which are just 22.5 kilometers from Contact, there is geological connection between the two. We're going to try to prove that out over the coming months and years. But there will be some allocation of capital to the preview deposits in the winter.
Anything to Knife Lake? I mean, copper is also hitting records as we speak.
Yeah, great question. Contact Lake will not be an area of focus in 2026.
Sorry,
The
Knife Lake.
reason, sorry, Knife Lake. The reason for that is purely a capital allocation decision and efficiency of that capital. Knife Lake is more remote. It's slightly harder to get to. You have to fly in, you have to build a camp. The cost of drilling there on a per meter basis is significantly more than it is at the gold projects. So I don't believe that Knife Lake will be an area of focus for us in the near term.
Okay. How much are you paying per meter on average up there?
Yeah, so on the gold projects, it's about $400 in the summer and the fall, all in per meter. We are forecasting for the winter program around $425 per meter. Knife Lake in drilling programs of the past has been closer to about $800 per meter.
All right. So the budget for your 10,000 meters is 5 million plus?
Correct. Fully funded with our balance sheet.
Very good. Very good. If you don't mind, let's rewind a little bit. So I guess that's fairly straightforward. We have a pretty narrow focus. You know what you're looking for, and you've got the plan, and you have the money to drill it. So I get that. Is there anything else on the exploration front or operationally that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so we were quite busy, not just on the exploration front, but we were quite busy adding new hectarage to our land portfolio, our land holdings. We now have about 120,000 hectares of land in Saskatchewan, mostly focused on the Ronge Gold Belt. We added about a third, greater than 30% to that land package over the last 12 months. The reason for that was by design. These were strategic assets that became available over the course of the year. As we believed that the success of our exploration programs at Contact would drive land values higher, we anticipated that and front run that, and we're quite acquisitive over the year. In fact, we had 4 joint venture option agreements acquisitions totaling about 30,000 hectares just in 2025 alone.
So if things go as you wish or hope, then you're locking up that district scale potential.
Correct. So the important thing here is that this is not just a regional play on Contact or one of the 4 or all 4 gold deposits that are currently carried on the balance sheet. This is a regional structural play. Like, we actually believe and this comes from Netolitzky and the work that he did in the past. We believe that there is the potential to create Canada's next significant gold mining camp. It's just going to take time and capital, and that was Ron's vision, and we're just looking to execute on that vision. Different gold price paradigm, different market sentiment, different team, newer technological capabilities. These are all the reasons why we think we're going to be successful.
I can tell you come from a financial background. If you were a geologist, there would have been a lot more arm waving with
Yeah.
forward-looking statements there. So the next question I had was actually going back a little bit more to the corporate history. It's a three-way merger, 30 million shares in the new company. I mean, there's how did I say this politely? I mean, it seems like a lot of shareholders from the former vehicles, they got kind of thrown under the bus there.
Yeah.
You know how many of them are still around? Is that potentially a block of disgruntled sellers if you do start delivering news? How is your capital structure looking, and how strong are the hands that it's in?
So I'm one of those shareholders that got crunched significantly. Every share that I own in this company, I've acquired with hard dollars. I put several $100,000 of my own capital to work. A lot of that capital came when it was Rockridge. We were the smallest piece of the puzzle, so we became 20%. So we were crunched the hardest. So I'm a definite recipient of that. Um, I think the point to make to all of those shareholders is I understand the rollback. It was painful to do, but these were three companies that they were unsustainable. They had no future on a standalone basis. It made sense to put all three of these together. It became a 1 + 1 + 1 is a 4, 5, 6, and I mean, hopefully we can make up some of the value that was lost on the rollback with the future success of the company. So that's how I would suggest. That's what I would say to the old shareholders. Are there some that are going to be disgruntled? I put on my former investor cap and say most likely yes. There are going to be some that will take advantage of performance in the share price to exit this thing. But this is a new team. It's a new story. It's a new exploration plan. It's hopefully becoming a new shareholder base. And so I think that most of those investors should stick around for the ride. This is a $65 million company fully funded with a few million ounces of gold on the balance sheet. It's not going to be hard in this gold paradigm to foresee a company worth a couple $100 million in market cap.
There's a forward-looking statement. Okay, so
Yeah.
speaking of forward-looking, we've got 16 holes to come from the completed drilling. Any ETA on the next press release, and what kind of lab turnaround times are you looking at?
Yeah, so lab turnaround times have been somewhat slow. There was a couple of errors with some of the batches that went in early. Given where commodity prices are, labs are quite busy at the moment, and so we're hoping to get the next batch out, either by the late Q4, so in the next couple of weeks, or early in the new year. I think early in the new year is probably the best anticipated timing for results.
Sorry, errors on their part or yours?
Yeah,
Hopefully,
on
QAQC is up to snuff.
the lab parts. Yeah.
All right. And I don't want to get you in trouble with the regulators here,
Yeah.
but you mentioned that you expanded the program because of visual cues in the core. But you're not drilling a VMS or something. This is gold in there. So what kind of visual cues would those be?
Yeah.
And did you see more of in the 16 holes that are pending?
Yeah, so I don't want to get into too much detail there. What we did say in the press release, when we increased the program, we used the term visual mineralization. And so I'm going to stick with that. I think that is a term we feel comfortable with. That's a term that our geologists and our technical people were comfortable putting out to the market. What I can say is that my understanding of the way that the core looked, it was quite consistent through the first three holes as we're seeing in the back 16 holes. Whether or not the gold grades will run like they did in the first three is yet to be determined. I want to make that very clear. But there were very exciting moments in the back 16 holes based on some of the widths of mineralized intersections that were encountered. Again, we haven't seen those assays, so I don't know the grade values that they're going to report. These types of deposits, by my understanding and my research, are very quirky. They're very difficult to understand by just looking at core. So it's to be determined. But what I will say is Cameco did a lot of the work for us. They comment, Cameco, not Trident, Cameco commented that it is very common to see visual gold in the core in former drill holes at Contact Lake. And that data is available again on their closing data points and their closing reports, which can be found on the Saskatchewan government or our website.
All right, got it.
So that's what I would say.
Okay, and since you've got the cash, almost regardless of the, well, not regardless, it would certainly inform your next round, but you're already planning on the next round. We talked about the winter drilling. So, these 16 holes are coming and then winter drilling starts. When does freeze up complete and how soon will there be more news by PDAC, or will you just still be getting going there? Or how does this news flow look throughout 2026?
Yeah, so freeze up. I mean, Saskatoon and that part of the country has been nights of minus 20 plus degrees Celsius. So I think freeze up is happening right now. We should be able to get back to Contact Lake on the lake probably by early to mid January. I think given where we're at with our planning, late January, early February is going to be the more realistic start date. The market will get the 16 holes over hopefully the balance of this year, and if not, through Q1 of next year. We will have news announcing the launch of the winter program, which will be a minimum of 10,000 meters. And then I think in Q2 and into Q3, you'll start to see the results from that program as well. The company should be actively releasing news flow to the market consistently for the first half of 26.
Very good. All right. Well, you kind of preemptively answered some of my questions. I usually wrap things up with a skin in the game question, but you mentioned putting you've all the shares that you've got. You say you acquired in the open market, no penny stocks given as a founder.
I'm not a founder of ROCK.V. I am the architect of Trident and the three-way merger, but I was not rewarded shares for doing that. I'm here to build value for the shareholders. And in fact, on the last financing, you'd see me, I purchased quite a bit of stock on that transaction. You'll continue to see me when I'm not blacked out purchasing stock in the open market. I think that this company at 65 million is significantly undervalued. At $23 per ounce in situ, we're looking at other companies trading well above $50 per ounce and as much as $140 per ounce. I think that if you take a point,
yeah, but it's not one deposit. I mean, if you had 2 million in one pit,
yeah,
65, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's one that I would have made as my former self as a fund manager. That's a very good point. But $23 per ounce does not justify the asset value, whether it's in one pit or in four pits plus a former Cameco producing mine. It's the value is not right. The reason why there's a disconnect right now is this company has not been out on the road talking about its business really until about November. The reason for that is we wanted to have some meat on the bone. We wanted to produce the MRE. We wanted to have some early drill results from Contact Lake. We're now just starting to get the word out there. And hence you can see the value is starting to move a little bit in the direction where I think it's more appropriate. And so if
I'll tell you, John, that's probably, at least from my evil perspective as a Scum of the Earth newsletter writer, probably very wise. Because if he had just come to me with the concept, it would be, Ron's doing it again. No offense to Ron. He's made a lot of money for a lot of people, including myself in the past, actually. But I've heard that Ronge story so many times.
Yeah.
So this coming to the market with some meat on the bones makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I think we covered everything that I had on my mind, and you've been a good sport with some tough questions here. So any final thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
No, we're going to be busy into 26. This is a great opportunity, great collection of assets. It's a great team. Our board is strong and built for a much larger organization. We're very well funded. We don't need any hard dollars. Exciting 10,000 meters coming up. And 16 of a 19 hole drill program is still to be released to the market. So tons of news, tons of catalysts, tons of upside. That's where I would lead everybody.
Very good. Well, we'll see what the truth machine turns up. Please do keep us posted, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching this edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. If you enjoyed or found value in what you just saw, and you're watching this on any sort of social media, please do hit the like button and the share link. Send this on to anybody you think might be interested. That helps us out a lot. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button as well. The number of subscribers helps us get more valuable content to you as well. On the subject of subscribing, I'll quickly say that if you're not a subscriber to our free weekly Speculators Digest, I encourage you to sign up. I promise if you do, we will not send you a flood of daily advertisements. You get one free weekly digest with original research not published anywhere else. Check it out at independentspeculator.com. Thank you and have a great day.